Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Capital 201 Speech and Debate Program. My name is Kinny. I was the senior instructor for the week. Let me share my screen with you all and kind of get everything started. Wonderful. Yeah, so welcome to camp. Before I continue a little bit, we're going to begin with the award ceremony. And before I talk about the class, it's probably pertinent that I introduce myself a little bit. So I am a communications professor at Western Washington University. I've been teaching there for about 4 years. I teach communication and mostly debate and argumentation to college students, but I also direct my own international program that's based in Vancouver in Canada. COVID has made directing that program a little bit harder to do at distance, but luckily we found ways to integrate online, much like how Capital has. Overall, I just want to begin by saying thank you so much for trusting your students with us and giving us the privilege to teach them. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with students. When I first heard that Capital was doing online classes over the summer, I myself was a little hesitant about my ability to keep students engaged and students' ability to want to come to class eager and ready to learn. Luckily, these students, as well as other labs, have proven me wrong, that overall that worry was not justified, and that overall the camp went really, really well. So thank you so much. Before we continue on, I want to say thank you to one of my assistant instructor, Nick Mirza. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it here today due to a previous commitment, unfortunately, but he wanted to extend his thanks to you all as well as to the students and congratulate them on a job well done over camp. Now, before we break into into the student awards, doing the showcase, I want to discuss a little bit about why we do this activity and why we think it's important. Overall, the value of the debate can be summarized pretty well. A former Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, once said the value of debate is that it promotes the 4 C's, being critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Here at Capital Debate, we think that there's a 5th C actually, which is civics, the ability for us to use the information that we gain in order to become advocates for the world. Regardless of your political ideology or those of your students, what's going on in America right now is really, it's a real poignant example of the need for advocacy. Faith in the government is at all-time lows. There's mass protests happening in the streets for a variety of different issues, but the ability for people to be critical thinkers and advocates is integral for solving those problems. Case in point, the Stoneman Douglas shooting that led into the March for Our Lives rally was coordinated by former debaters. We think that many students here have the potential to be future leaders of the world. It's for that reason that CEOs from Amazon, Microsoft, Google stated that in the age of automation, when artificial intelligence is predicated to take 1 in 2 or 50% of all jobs in America by 2050, we need the next generation of leaders and workers to be critical thinkers and people who can collaborate. Skills that we think we promote in debate. So, in light of that, the skill sets that we try to review in 201 are, I would summarize in 4 different things. The first is research and evidence comparison. Oftentimes in debate, we like having strong rationale. That's definitely important. But one of the best ways to become a well-rounded speaker is by seeing what other experts are saying in the literature base and then comparing different arguments and things like bias. In addition to that, though, one thing that makes debate unique from any other activity is the communication aspect of it, by both verbal and nonverbal communication. How do I provide emphasis? Where do I put my hands? Looking at the camera, my cadence, etc. The third thing is self-improvement. Every single debate that you will hear today is the perspective of only one side. Moreover, each debater had to learn things from a variety of perspectives in order to understand that one complex issue does not have a right answer. Rather, it is up to each individual advocate to convince someone that their side is more correct than not. It's for that reason that we think that revisions and constantly working on our what we call our cases or our opening arguments is paramount to long-term development. Finally, our 4th thing we worked on was community building, the ability for us to work as a lab and understand that when we work together in a community of inquiry and curiosity, are we best able to provide the next leaders of the future. The final thing I want to talk about before we go into awards is how we did that. In this class, 201 debate, we focus mostly on using public speaking as an avenue to understand argumentation and a heuristic for leadership. In particular, we found that daily speaking activities from those extemporaneous speeches or impromptus or engaging in research-based and revisions, as well as engaging in thought experiments about how do we prioritize issues and how do we prioritize risks is really important. And that all happens, in our opinion, through debate and debate games. Like I said, one of the best values of debate is what I would call switch side, or the idea that every single person here had to write a speech in favor of government regulations as well as against government regulations of social media. We'll talk about what that topic means in particular after we give out some awards, but I just want to say this is hard. As someone who teaches college students, what I attempted to teach your students over the course of a week is typically discussed over 4 weeks in a college class. The reason why we do that is that oftentimes I find that when we challenge students, they rise to success. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to see some of that today as well. Okay, that's probably enough of the justifications for debate. Let's move into the next slide. The first person we want to congratulate is Iris. Iris we found to be a very great speaker, both due to her research as well as her ability to write openings that are very descriptive and draw in the reader's attention. So congratulations, Iris. Next up, we have Jay. Jay is a speaker that's always one of the most structured and organized speakers. One thing we found about debate is that there are so many possible arguments, but the speaker's ability to connect the dots and make a compelling case is what garners them ethos, or what we call credibility as a speaker. In addition to Jay, congratulations, Jay, we have Serena. Serena is one of our spunkier debaters, but one thing I found about Serena in particular that we really enjoyed was her evidence comparison and our ability to research arguments and use that evidence in order to explain how our arguments are better than her opponents. In other words, not only does critical thinking involve your own rationale, but analyzing competing themes of evidence to understand what argument is the best. So congratulations, Serena. Thank you very much. The next person that we have is Maddie. Maddie, one of our actresses who has joined us in Capital Debate 201. Maddie was an experienced debater in spar debate, and she used her skills and delivery and research to really shine in our class. I found that Maddie really engaged the idea of persuasion, and not only looking at the paper, but convincing the audience or the judge or myself or Nick to side with them. But more importantly, or perhaps just as importantly, rather, I really found rather endearing the ability for Maddie to work with her sister and serve as a mentor to help guide her with any of the processes. If there was any time where there was a tech issue of either of the computers, Maddie was always there to lend a hand, and she was always supportive. So congratulations, Maddie. You did a great job. Next person up is Nina. Nina is a great student. I find that at first, Nina was a student that was a little quiet when she was speaking. But after we told her after she learned how to speak into the microphone, as well as gaining a little bit more confidence, I found that her diversity of argumentation, as well as the strategy that she deployed in her arguments, to be very, very compelling. So congratulations, Nina. Great job. Next up is Cyrus. Cyrus is one of the most rambunctious people in our class, though I would never call that a bad thing. Cyrus's energy that he uses and his enthusiasm with team building, as well as his ability to engage in debates with a positive attitude, really enables some rapid growth on his part. So I want to really recognize and congratulate Cyrus on completing the course. After Cyrus, we have Ryan. Ryan was a speaker that was gone for a few times over the last few days, but despite the fact that he had various also equally important appointments, I was very impressed with Ryan's ability to be an independent and self-sufficient learner. Anytime that he was gone, he was always able to catch up, but more importantly, he had a really can-do positive attitude about being flexible of his work and accomplishing what he did. And I think his growth is a really big sign of that and a testament to his hard work ethic. And for that, I congratulate you, Ryan. In addition to Ryan, we have Lucas, another sibling pair. Lucas, I found, was another student that had a really creative argument and the ability to approach a debate from a creative perspective and more unique arguments that other students did not say. I really think shines or gives a testament to the idea about how Lucas has grown as a student. Next, another sibling, but not to Lucas, but rather to Maddie, is Annie. Annie is our youngest student that we had at Capital, in Capital 201 in our lab. Despite her young age, though, her really positive attitude and the ability for her to engage in our feedback and implement our criticism and being okay to ask questions when she does not understand anything makes me confident that Annie is one of the most improved speakers, but also one of the better debaters in our lab. So for that, I really want to congratulate Annie. Fantastic work. Finally, last but not least, we have Shaunab. Shaunab as a speaker is someone that I would really love because he was a really flexible in his argumentation. He was always willing to defend the pro or the con or understand that every issue is multifaceted. As a result, I think that Shaunab was really able to understand how to be the best debater regardless of the side, and that will really take you far in life, in particular if you want to try to join other debate teams in the future. And for that, I believe that is all in our lab. So I want to say congratulations to all the people that were there. Really great job, everyone. Awesome. In light of that, now that we've finished doing our certificates, I want to move into this. If every parent and student could please just take a picture of the slide here. This is a survey that we complete. This is the first year that Capital did solely online camps. And as a result, we really, really want your feedback for the parents as well as students. What did you really like about the camp and the awards ceremony? What did you not? What were the things that Nick and I did really, really well? Nick Nimmer's my assistant instructor, of course, as well as what are the things that we could have improved upon. I've been working with Capital. Usually I'm a camp director where I run the camps across the West Coast. However, due to the fact that we're online right now, we want to hear a lot about what you want to say. And please, all the feedback that you give us, we do take very, very seriously. The camp is different every single year. For some reasons are more random than others, like pandemics. However, we always try to make the camp experience as good as possible for our students. As a result, we would really, really value your feedback. So if you take the time to fill that out after the awards ceremony, we will greatly appreciate it. I'll leave it on the slide for about another 5 seconds while I sip some water, and then we'll continue on. Awesome. In light of that, the last things then that we want to kind of move into will be camps. Capital is still actually running a fair amount of camps for the rest of the summer. So if you would like to do a camp in business communication, legal communication, STEM communications, interpersonal communications, as well as debate 301 or 401, which is more advanced league, where you'll be able to take another week to work on debate, really refine what you want to do and get better. We really work on your arguments more of other instructors. That'd be really, really awesome. And if you want to work with me, you could also request that in the event that you want to enjoy working in my labs. As a result of that, I would say that 301 and 401 are the next progression. In 301, instead of just doing one round that you work towards the end, you do an entire debate tournament against all the other possible labs. So you have a lot of ways to grow and develop as a debater and a speaker. In addition to the media camps that you can do, Capital Debate also offers a debate league. So unfortunately in America, only about 10% of public high schools and middle schools offer debate programs in the country, which means that for the majority of American students, there's not a debate opportunity. Club debate and our debate league is a regular opportunity for you to work with an instructor, just like myself, and work on debate on a weekly basis. This class, in my opinion, functions a lot more like a college course where we meet for once a week for about an hour to practice our debate material, and then I would give students a homework assignment like to write their case, to do some research. And instead of us meeting over the course every day for 1 week, we'll meet for 1 hour every week over the course of 12. And then it culminates into a debate tournament. And this happens all across the country. There are several different divisions. I know that we have 2 students, for instance, that are from New York. There is a huge northeast division that you all can compete in if you also wish. Regardless of which, though, if you all want to enroll in the Club Debate League, you can save $100 if you enroll within the next week. Okay. It is time for the showcase. So what is going to happen is that each debater would represent either the pro or the con on the topic of social media and government regulations and whether or not the pros or the benefits outweigh the cons. In particular, uh, we want to look at the arguments that are presented here. So, in light of that, what we want to move into is going to be the debates. The first debate that actually we'll be moving into is going to be with Lucas and Annie. But before we move into the topic, one thing that we will see with this argument, with the resolution about government regulations on social media do more good than harm, is that we are understanding what types of government regulations are being considered. What is social media? What are the various stakeholders that are interested in this topic, and how can we best analyze it? It's for that reason that I want to open the debate up to Lucas, who will be representing the pros on this topic, as well as Annie. So, in light of that, in order for us to do this debate, I want students, y'all, if you're not Lucas and Annie, let's turn off our cameras to make the broadband width go down so we can have as clear as possible. Lucas and Annie, before we all begin, just like before, I want you all to say your name, introduce yourself to the audience, your name, what state or city you live in, and your favorite thing about debate to get us started. Lucas, since you're on the pro, you can do that first, then Annie, and then we'll go into our debate proper.
Okay, my name's Lucas. My favorite thing about debate is, researching about the topic maybe, yeah. And what are the other questions again?
What state are you living in right now, maybe?
Oh, California.
California kid. Wonderful. Annie, your turn.
Hello, my name is Annie Delbridge. I live in New York City, but I'm currently in Los Angeles, California. And my favorite thing about debate camp is probably all the speech activities we did. And also, I grew a lot as a debater. Like before this, I didn't really know a lot about debate. And now I feel like I know a lot more about it and I'm a stronger debater.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, Annie, did you say what state you're living in?
Yes, I think I
Awesome.
did. But
Awesome.
I can repeat it if you like.
No, I wanted to make sure. Really great. Okay.
Okay.
So in light of that, let's move into the debate. Lucas, you'll be representing the affirmative. So Lucas will be giving his opening arguments in favor of the resolution.
Do I go right now?
Mm-hmm.
Millions of people use social media for work or for fun, but it can be dangerous. We need the government to protect us from harm while using social media. The government regulates social media and does more good than harm. Here are some examples. Copyright infringement and human trafficking posts aren't allowed. Well, here's an example of copyright infringement. For example, you make a painting and you post it on social media. Someone else can't use your idea and post it as theirs. That's copyright infringement and you can't do that. It's important because artists make money off posting things onto social media. We have to stop cyberbullying because cyberbullying has been increasing on social media. A lot of young teens commit suicide or have a lot of depression because they're being cyberbullied. Examples of cyberbullying is being mean to someone or posting mean comments or posting weird pictures of people that without their permission. The government has to stop copyright infringement and the government should regulate cyberbullying because of they have to regulate social media because of cyberbullying. We need our government to keep social media sites free from danger for the millions of us who use them.
Awesome. In light of that, we will now move into the question period where Lucas will be able to ask, or sorry, when Annie will be able to ask Lucas questions about his speech for a minute.
May I please ask the first question?
Annie, you ask questions for a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't the social media platforms like Facebook and TikTok already have anti-bullying or human trafficking policies that they rigorously follow? Why do we need to add regulations and the government oversight when the platforms already have stringent policies?
Well, the government should regulate social media because copyright infringement and human trafficking, well, that's already a law. They've already done a good job. So it's like a sign of them doing well. So if they regulate social media because of cyberbullying, it will increase and help the social media.
For cyberbullying, why should the government decide when and if someone's being bullied? As Americans, don't we have the right for free speech?
Yes, but freedom of speech or being bullied, it's someone's opinion, yes, but it's really not kind, and the government, because a lot of young teens
You
because a
can finish
lot
your
of young
sentence.
because a lot of young teens are under a lot of peer pressure, so they can't. The government has to help them because they're already on a lot of pressure.
Awesome. And with that, now that we heard Lucas's argument in favor of the resolution of government regulations on social media, we'll now open the floor to Annie for her opening arguments against the topic.
TikTok is nearly being banned by the American government. According to Overload.com, 800 million users are on TikTok, and that popularity will be lower if the government continues to violate privacy and stop freedom of speech. And 3.5 billion people have social media, and yet, as I said, popularity will be lower if the government starts watching us. And the benefits of government regulations of social media outweighs the harm. I stand on the firmest side of negation for this argument. My major argument is that it takes away money from social media platforms. My second argument is that it takes away money from social media platforms. People will start deleting their accounts because they feel unsafe with the government watching them, and a lot of people get tricked when they get the app and they click on I agree for all the rules. They don't know that they're also pressing I agree to violations of privacy. So that's why money gets taken away, because money gets added when someone clicks on an ad or sponsored post, and money gets taken away from them if they delete their account, and all of that money goes to waste, and the money in the world decreases by that minute. So it violates privacy, and it also gives money loss, and that's probably their only jobs, like Instagram and Facebook. They probably have that only job. And why do we need extra regulations over the government to give them more power when they already are on top of that? Like earlier this week, the Trump campaign tweeted out that children are practically immune from catching COVID, and Twitter, not the government, Twitter, the company, remove that from Twitter because it's false information. And it wasn't the government didn't even have to get involved, and they were already on top of things with all the computers. And I don't think that the government needs to have more power over that to stop that, even though people are already doing it. So in conclusion, I still stand on the firmest negation side of the argument. The benefits of government regulations of social media outweighs the harm. Next time people get social media, I think they should consider the consequences of the government reviewing and overviewing your posts. And I don't think it's fair that even if you sign up to get a private account, you're still getting the government or strangers to you are still viewing your posts. Thank you.
Excellent. In light of that, Lucas will now have the opportunity to question Annie on her opening speech for 1 minute.
Okay, you said it was 3.5 billion people using social media. How does a social media account lose money from this?
Well, the money that they pay, even like a little bit of money can go back to them because they're working hard to get this company. And I think that even that little bit from 3.5 billion people would still help them with the money.
Okay. You said that Twitter and Instagram, they don't actually. You said that Twitter and Instagram, they since Donald Trump posted a post about how children are immune from coronavirus. How? So it's the Twitter and Instagram. They already taken it down, but it's the law. So can you explain it?
First of all, I did not say Donald Trump said. I said the Donald Trump campaign, and also I think that they deleted it because first of all, it'd be fake information that would putting other people's lives in danger.
Okie dokie. And with that, we will now move into Lucas's refutation of Annie's opening. In other words, every speech has an opening where both sides get their perspective, and then both sides can question each other on the perspective. After their openings are given, both sides now get to refute their opponent's ideas. Lucas, you'll be up first for a minute and a half.
Okay. My opponent said that 3.5 billion people use social media. Well, she also said that social media companies lose a lot of money because of this. It's 3.5 billion people, so not everyone's going to delete social media accounts. So there's definitely going to be some people, but not everyone is going to delete social media. So billions of money will still be made, and social media companies won't go broke. She also said that they violate privacy. Well, the government can't look at everyone's posts, and even then, the government doesn't like tell everyone in the world what you're doing, and hackers are different because they use your information and they just like make money off of you. She also social media companies should be regulated by the government because copyright infringement and cyberbullying is more important than just a few people getting some of their privacy. And even though some people don't get their privacy, other hackers can also get their privacy.
Okay. And with that, it will now be time for Annie to refute Lucas's opening points against the affirmative. Annie, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I think that I won this debate because his points no longer stand. I think that people watching you is extremely wrong, and it seems like my opponent would prefer to move to China or some other non free country where social media platforms are not only regulated by, in many cases, completely banned. Free speech is very important and cannot be destroyed by the government's choice. Social media platforms like Facebook and TikTok already have anti-bullying and human trafficking policies that they rigorously follow. We do not need to add additional regulations and government oversight when the platforms already have stringent policies in place to prevent bullying and human trafficking. For cyberbullying, the government should not decide when and if someone is being bullied. As Americans, we have the right for free speech, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, it is completely legal to have opinions. Also, how does the government know who is a criminal and who's not? The people who own social media will not lose any money. I think that we should care for them because this is probably their only job. My opponent is basically saying that we should not pay them even if they deserve so. In conclusion, I still stand on the firmest side of negation after his entire argument. Thank you.
Awesome. And in light of that, we will now move into the closing speeches where both sides can say what happened in the debate and why they feel like they won, given the opening arguments and the refutation against their side. Lucas, you'll be up first. Are you ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. 1 minute.
I won this debate because the government shouldn't allow cyberbullying. A lot of young teens are under peer pressure and they can't stand up for themselves. The government should regulate social media and help them build some confidence, and so they can stand back up to the cyberbully. She also said that a lot of Twitter companies, the Twitter and Instagram and the other social media companies, the workers deserve their money. Yes, they deserve money, and she says that a lot of people the social media companies lose money because a lot of people delete social media accounts because of their privacy. Since there's so many people in the world, if just a couple of people do delete their social media account, social media platforms will still run perfectly fine because it's just a couple of people out of 3.5 billion people.
Excellent.
Huh?
That's time.
Oh, okay.
Annie, your turn for your closing. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Let's hear it.
Oh, can I go?
Yeah.
Okay. I won this debate because people already have rules that they rigorously follow. And basically, my opponent is basically arguing in his conclusion that even though people work hard to make this company, we should not pay them, even the little money that they work hard to. I strongly disagree with this argument because even if they work, even if they work and people leave their time, they should still deserve that money because they still earn it. And my opponent is saying that even though they earn the money, they don't deserve it because it's just a little bit in 3.5 billion, so it doesn't matter. A little bit of money really matters to the government. And he also said that cyberbullying, that the government will stop cyberbullying. Well, the government is not actually. I think the cyberbullying. People have the right for free speech, and people should be allowed to stand up. And I think they should be allowed to say and to fight for themselves, and also report them because that's another way to solve a problem, to report them so they get in trouble. In conclusion, I still stand firmly on the negation side of the argument. The benefits of government regulations of social media outweighs the harm. My major argument was that it takes away money from social media platforms, and my opponent argued that it's just a little bit in 3.5 billion people, so why do we have to pay them? I strongly disagree with that. Thank you.
Excellent. In light of that, so we have now finished the first debate. Great job to both sides. So you all did really, really excellent
Thank
work
you.
for showcasing the arguments. Fantastic job. So the next person up that we will hear from as a
Thank
result, you're welcome, Annie, is going to be Iris and Shaunab. So we're going to move into the second round. Each time you'll notice that debaters will be saying maybe different points or have different techniques. We're really, really excited to see what the second debate has to offer. In light of that, I'll stop talking now and I'll give the floor over to who is affirmative on this one? Iris. Before we begin, just like last time, name, state you live in, favorite thing about camp.
Hey, so my name is Iris. I live in California, and my favorite thing about camp is actually writing the speech. So can
Awesome.
I talk about my?
Shauna, your turn first, and then yeah, we'll get right into the debate.
My name is Shaunab. I'm from Foster City, California, and my favorite thing about camp was also writing the speech.
Awesome. In light of that, we'll hear Iris's opening for 2 minutes.
Hey, I felt the tiredness in my eyes as I stared at the bright phone screen. I know I'm supposed to be sleeping, but I just can't stop looking at my phone. These videos on Instagram are just so interesting. Without government regulations, children would have access to see inappropriate things, which is why we need to limit social media. Government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. In this speech, you will learn about why biased posts affect us, how social media contains private information, and how the government regulation would protect younger kids. My first reason is that biased posts affect us. Violent and racist posts are all over the internet, but especially on social media. These can lead to violence and protests, as we have seen with the Black Lives Matter protest that has started with the social media post. Some may say that there would be no open discussion if we limit social media, but would you rather risk your child's safety to benefit their social interactions? My second reason is that social media contains lots of private information. Hackers like to target social media accounts because their security is weaker. We know this because we have seen on the news that Facebook accounts have been getting hacked. My third reason is that government regulation protects younger kids. People have been using social media when they're not supposed to, such as when they're supposed to be sleeping or when they're supposed to be working. King's University Online says that 50% of people under the age of 18 get addicted to their phones. This is not healthy because the people that get addicted to their phones do not follow health regulations. This is important because the government regulation to protect younger kids will benefit your children, your children's safety and health. In conclusion, government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. In this speech, you should have learned about why biased posts affect us, how social media contains lots of private information, and how government regulation would protect younger kids.
Excellent, excellent work. In light of that, we'll now have Shauna question Iris for 1 minute.
So you were talking about the Facebook accounts getting hacked, right? So how can government regulations stop hackers from hacking Facebook accounts?
Well, they can create better security because because social media companies they want to make profit, but the government just wants to secure your information, and with the government regulation, they will secure your private
And
information.
also, how can you guarantee that hackers cannot go past through the upgraded security?
Well, there is no guarantee that hackers will not go through the security, but at least there is some protection that, and it would be harder for hackers to get through, and at least it's harder.
Um,
Excellent. Then that's the question period.
oh.
So now we'll move into Shauna's negative speech against the topic for 2 minutes.
Before this pandemic, I'd gotten a text about the coronavirus. I thought it was fake news because it had the phrase "send this to your loved ones" because that's what most fake news posts have. But I didn't think it would turn out to be real. There are rumors that the government will regulate social media, but government regulations on social media will do more harm than good because citizens of the US have freedom of speech and social media does good things too. My first reason is that citizens of the US have freedom of speech. The First Amendment protects individuals on social media from government censorship. Gov- uh, Hate speech and comments are helpful too because it helps people to improve themselves. And controlling the freedom of speech will raise negative government criticism, which will sprout civil unrest along with Black Lives Matter for free speech on social media. This makes the government not democratic. My second and last reason is that the social media does good things too. Social media helps people be aware of current events like the or pandemics, like the text I told you about earlier, voting campaigns, and other important events. If the government regulates fake news, these event reminder posts are in danger of being reported and deleted permanently as fake news by trolls or people upset other people in social media. All of these points are proof that government regulations on social media does more harm than good because the citizens of the US have freedom of speech and social media does good things too. Uh,
Excellent. In light of that, we'll do the last round of questioning for 1 minute. Iris, it's your turn.
Okay. So in your third reason, you said about like that social media can like help you make friends. What is an example of how why friends on social media would be good?
so so now we have the social distancing rule where we cannot be in front of people like 6 feet. So uh so it really makes people harder to go and meet with their friends. But when we go to social media, we can make new friends and then like or just communicate with our old friends and you know talk to them and communicate so that we don't feel very lonely and depressed. So any other questions?
I
And that's
do
time.
not.
Okie dokie. In light of that, now that we heard both arguments, we will now move into the refutation speech. Iris will be refuting Shauna for 1.5 minutes to begin. Iris, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so without the government regulation, you don't really know who you're talking to. So when you are speaking your mind, which you have said in your first reason, you most likely don't know who you are talking to because you might be talking to a hacker, and that would not be very good. This is important because children, especially children, are very vulnerable to the dangers that are everywhere. And if you give your child social media that doesn't have any government regulations, your whole family's safety could be at risk. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move into Shauna's refutation.
So, answering why biased posts affect us or leads to violence. If the government regulates social media by suppressing these kinds of posts, it will be ineffective because there are more than one ways to spread a message, and this gives people another reason to spread violence for free speech against the government. Answering how social media contains private information. Uh, if the government regulates social media, it doesn't mean our personal information is safe with us, because government regulations cannot increase security. So hackers can still hack into social media accounts. And lastly, answering how government regulation would protect younger kids. If the government should take down objectifying content, there will always be a few posts that have obscene content that they will miss. Hence, this method will be ineffective.
Okay. In light of that, we will now move into the closing speeches. Iris will be beginning first, explaining how she feels she won the debate given the arguments, and then it'll be Shaunab's turn, and then the second debate will be completed. Iris, you have 1 minute.
Okay. I won this debate because my opponent said that the government can't regulate every single post, so this method is ineffective. But it is actually effective because the government will actually regulate at least some posts, so this is still being effective, and this will create less risk of violence. So this method is very effective, and even if they can't regulate every single post, they're at least doing something. My points matter more because freedom of speech wouldn't matter if your safety and privacy are at risk. Thank you.
Excellent. Shaunab, your turn for 1 minute.
I should win because the freedom of speech in my first point is the most important. My opponent replied to my first point with speaking your mind is better than doing it face to face instead of using social media. This is false because freedom of speech in every platform makes the government democratic. My argument is more significant than my opponent's argument because it helps in giving because hate speech also helps in giving feedback to other people and and helps the recipient to improve themselves.
Excellent. And in light of that, one thing that I want to say is, first of all, congratulations to both sides on an excellent debate. Really excellent work here. One thing I want to highlight is how Iris and Shauna had different arguments than Lucas and Annie, which is to say that every topic you have so many different arguments to choose from. And that's one of the things that makes debate really creative is that each person can approach a topic from their own unique perspective. Excellent work, you two. Fantastic work. Good, great job. Okay. The next person on our debate list for people who should be going would be Serena and Nina. Okie dokie, y'all. So, just like before, we'll get the panelists up here for that. Introduce yourself, your name, what state you're living in or city, and your favorite thing about camp. Affirmative can go first. I believe that's Serena.
Um, my name's Serena and I live in California. My favorite part about debate camp was playing Scribble.
Excellent, excellent team building. And Nina.
My favorite part was I don't really have a favorite part. I just really like the whole thing.
Okay, I'll take it. And what state are you living in, Nina?
Washington.
Washington, just like me. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. In light of that, round three. Serena on the affirmative, you're up first.
By definition, social media is an online platform used to share ideas, information, and other types of public content. However, it is known for being filled with news and information that can either be fake, misleading, or completely offensive. Government regulations on social media can prevent these incidences, showing that their benefits can outweigh the few cons that come with it. First of all, government regulations can limit hate and cyberbullying, as well as disinformation and propaganda. According to BBC, the e-Safety Commissioner's Office in Australia can issue companies with 48-hour takedown notices and fines of up to 525,000 Australian dollars. This is a great example for the US government to follow. Nearly 60% of all teens are targeted for cyberbullying, which makes many people question the safety of social media. Just like regular bullying, cyberbullying can cause anxiety, fear, depression, or even suicidal thoughts. One example would be the death of Charlotte Dawson, a TV presenter and judge on Australia's Next Top Model, who killed herself in 2014 following a campaign of cyberbullying against her on Twitter. This just comes to show how dangerous unmonitored content on social media can be. To my next point, government regulations on social media can prevent the spread of fake news and therefore increase people's overall trust in the internet. When so much of the population uses some form of online media for information, it is crucial that that information is reliable and true. Government regulations on social media would increase people's trust and allow us to utilize the internet better. According to NBC News, the truth took about 6 times as long as falsehood to reach 1,500 people on Twitter. This is an issue that severity can easily be decreased by implementing government regulations, as there would be less false information circulating the internet to begin with. Fake news can include false rumors about disease spread, specifically the coronavirus at this time, and could put the public health at risk. For instance, if the rumor that masks are ineffective entered the social media atmosphere, many people would end up not wearing them, which would result in the major spreading of COVID-19. In conclusion, government regulations on social media help not only protect your privacy, but also increase your safety. Second, these regulations could help control the spread of false information, which would be extremely helpful during this chaotic pandemic.
Excellent, excellent work there. Now that Serena gave her opening arguments, it is now time for Nina to question Serena for 1 minute.
How will the government know when somebody is cyberbullied?
The government can just regulate posts that seem derogatory or offensive to others, as most people have a general sense of what is considered mean and what is okay to speak. So yeah.
Okay. How does how does the government regulation of social media control the spread of false information?
Most of false information is either fact or not. So, for instance, like masks are ineffective. That is obviously a false fact because it can be proven wrong scientifically. And there's a lot of this type of news circulating the internet, and government regulations with filters can easily take out these types of news.
But why should the government be able to judge what is fake news and what is not?
Because a lot of it is actually fact and not necessarily opinion. Like, for instance, like masks are ineffective because this can obviously be proven wrong.
Okay. In light of that, we will now move into Nina's 2-minute speech against the topic.
Okay. Would you want to live in a world where you have limited freedom of speech, where the government can regulate your posts and censor them as they want? Government regulation can be good, but in the case of social media, government regulation of social media companies is more harm than good. The government should not regulate social media users because it would take away freedom of speech from users. Free speech is used to share ideas, which can be used to improve our society and be used to listen to the ideas of others. The First Amendment states that the government cannot make any laws restricting the people's freedom of speech. This is being challenged. If the government regulates social media, they are bound to restrict the content, censoring, deleting, etc. Freedom of speech is highly valued in America, but if the government restricts or regulates social media, this freedom will be taken away. People will become afraid of what would happen if they posted something controversial. If the government regulates social media, they are simply restricting the people's rights in exchange for information and bitter control of the media, and also risk protests from people who think that this is unfair. Do you want the people to be worried about their privacy, challenge the First Amendment, and risk protests just so you can get slightly more control over social media? According to Marisa Hall, dean of the School of Art and Communication College of New Jersey, Trump has been demonizing individuals and groups using the media to frame his agenda and influence the news cycle to fit his proposed policies. An example of Trump demonizing some individuals is when he accused 4 congresswomen of hating the US, and I quote, totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came. This is someone who is part of the government and is using social media to fit his own purposes. This may cause him to become corrupt, which results in tyrannical rule. In conclusion, letting the government regulate social media will do more harm than good because it will restrict freedom of speech, and in doing so may lead to tyrannical rule.
Excellent work there, Nina. I think that now that we heard both the arguments for and against the topic, we'll have the last questioning period, and then we'll move on to the rebuttals.
You mentioned how people should rather have freedom of speech rather than just have like freedom of speech is more important than people spreading hate or like bullying. Why is that?
Because cyberbullying and hate speech, if you didn't have freedom of speech, these things wouldn't even exist. But if you didn't have freedom of speech, people wouldn't be able to communicate with each other using social media.
Well, if people are communicating only like hate wise and bullying wise, then how is that better than people just not talking at all?
People don't only use social media for cyberbullying and hate speech. Many people use it just for communication and to share their ideas.
Okay. And also you mentioned how the government would, if they're just monitoring if they're monitoring and regulating social media, it would become a tyrannical rule. How does that work?
Because, wait, can you repeat your question?
How would the government like turn into tyrannical rule just by monitoring social media content?
Okay. According to vocabulary.com, a website designed to improve the vocabulary of people, by their definition, a tyrannical ruler is a ruler who wields absolute power and authority, and often wields that power unjustly, cruelly, or obsessively. It's just that it wields absolute power. Right now, the government already controls a lot of things, but if the government is able to control what you see online, they may also be able to control what you believe, making them have absolute power.
Excellent, and that is the time. So now we will move into the refutation speeches. Serena, you'll be starting us off for a minute and a half. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's hear the speech for a minute and a half. One thing before I actually hear Serena's speech is I want to highlight how great both sides were. We're questioning each other's ideas about specific points, asking for examples as well as elaboration. Really excellent work on both sides. Serena, you're refuting for a minute and a half.
You mentioned how people would lose their freedom of speech if the government regulated social media. First of all, the government wouldn't necessarily be censoring everything that they see on social media that they don't like. For instance, the government would just merely monitor and supervise social media, and that doesn't mean censorship at all. Government supervision would rather mean they would take down hate content or false information that is mostly agreed upon everyone. For instance, if hate speech was on social media, lots of people would actually consider this violence and a threat to the public. This is more important than having merely freedom of speech, as when people are threatened and violent to each other, they are also violating other rights. And lastly, you mentioned how the government would turn into tyrannical rule just merely by monitoring social media. However, this is not true because the government monitoring social media would take effect by having monitors on individual platforms such as Twitter or Instagram take down posts that are derogatory or, for example, hate speech or false facts that can obviously be proven wrong. Second of all, I mean, not second of all. In addition, the government with monitoring would not be absolute power, as there are many ways that American public has maintained a democracy, and people still have the right to say what they want, and there's nothing against that with the government regulating it.
Excellent work. In light of that, we will now move into the negative refutation of the affirmative points by Nina. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do it for a minute and a half.
If the government regulates social media, they have to censor and delete, just like the social media companies are doing right now. The very definition of regulate, according to Oxford Languages, is is to control or supervise by means of rules and regulations. And the definition of supervise is observe and direct execution of a task, a project, or activity. But notice, in supervise, it says to direct and observe. In concept this topic, it means the government will be managing the censoring, deleting based off of the social media based off of the rules the social media companies have already set to deal with these problems. This means the government will simply be replacing the people already monitoring fake news and cyberbullying. You also mentioned how hate speech equal to violence and so should not be allowed. Well, the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech. This applies to hate speech. The Supreme Court has made exceptions to this, such as threats, but they haven't done so with hate speech. This means they think that it should be included in freedom of speech. This means that hate speech is acceptable and should not be deleted or completely deleted. The fact that the Supreme Court has made exceptions but didn't make an exception for hate speech means that the government doesn't have to regulate social media companies in order to regulate hate speech because they've already deemed it acceptable.
Excellent. And that is time. In light of that, we will now be moving into the closing speeches. So Serena will be giving her perspective on how she wins, and then Nina will do the same. One thing I will also highlight is that given these speeches, you'll notice how almost all the debaters, including Serena and Nina, always explain what argument they're responding to before they explain why their argument was wrong. That's a sign of organization that actually takes a lot of practice. So fantastic work on both sides. Serena, you have a 1 minute closing.
So I believe I have won this debate because for numerous reasons. First of all, you mentioned how hate speech is not covered by the First Amendment. However, it is covered by many other laws regarding hate and overall violence and threats. The violence and threats would cause a threat to the whole public and not just specific individuals. And this would just cause overall insecureness around people on social media. Second of all, um, accounts with dangerous activity or posting fake information could easily be taken down by the government, and not necessarily with their opinion, but rather just by facts if something is derogatory or obviously fake. And um, the government wouldn't directly be taking information down as social media sites have monitors, nearly thousands of people across the nation who can supervise activity on social media, and they can take down information that is agreed upon the public rather than just if someone specifically feels this isn't needed, they won't be allowed to just censor things.
Excellent. In light of that, we will hear the final speech from Nina explaining how she believes the negative did a better job debating and won the debate. Nina, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
As you just said, there are already people by social media companies monitoring the spread of fake news. This means that companies are perfectly fine without government regulation. If the government were to regulate social media companies right now, they would be disrupting the system, and they're not 100%, and they wouldn't completely block off hate speech or fake news. And you didn't address my point of why should government decide what is fake news. This means that is correct. The government should not be allowed to determine what is fake news because they might be biased. For example, if they do not support the side of something, for example, there are some people that doesn't support Trump. If Trump saw this, he and his party might take it down, which is the government abusing their power. I believe I have won this debate because freedom of speech is more important than the other issues you have covered. If you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have the power to express your ideas or to share your opinions to improve the society.
Excellent. Excellent work to both speakers. And with that, we have now completed our third debate. Congrats to both sides. You all did excellent, excellent work. Okay. In light of that, we're going to be heading into our next round, our fourth of our 5 rounds that will be showcasing today. Next up will be Cyrus representing the pro against Ryan on the con. Before we begin the debate, just like all of the speakers, Cyrus and Ryan, I want you all to introduce yourselves to the audience, your name, what state you live in, and your favorite thing about camp. Cyrus, you're on the affirmative, so you can start us off with introductions.
Hi, my name is Cyrus Ian. I'm from Bainbridge Island, Washington. My favorite thing about this camp is that I think it helped me improve my public speaking skills.
Excellent. Ryan?
I'm Ryan Fong. I live in California, and my favorite part of this camp was playing Scribble.
I really love team building. Okay. Really good. In light of that, Cyrus, let's hear your affirmative opening and your thought on the topic for 2 minutes.
Social media platforms are getting bigger and bigger each day, but so are its problems. However, we cannot trust social media platforms to regulate themselves. This is why I believe we need government regulation of social media, which does more good than harm. My first argument is social media needs to be more transparent to governments and users, and my second argument is that social media needs to be held accountable for objectionable content that children can be badly influenced by. Social media needs to be more transparent to governments and their users. Social media performs with little inspection, but it needs transparency so people know the consequences of social media. If social media is more transparent, the government and users would be able to see what happens with many things inside the platform, like inappropriate or illegal material. This would help people to learn if the social media platform is reliable. Also, users should have the ability to know when breaches or data loss occur, like the Russian election interference in 2016, and what might have happened to their user information. If governments are able to regulate social media, then the government would be able to protect users' private information and also delete illegal material and misinformation. Social media needs to be held accountable for objectionable content that any child can be badly influenced by. According to the Pew Research Center in 2019, social media doesn't self-regulate itself enough to protect children from content that should be censored to them, like sexual material and derogatory posts. Also, children can be exposed to cyberbullying, which social media platforms don't always regulate. Since social media platforms don't always regulate cyberbullying, kids are exposed to it, which leads to profound psychosocial outcomes, including depression, anxiety, severe isolation, and suicide. If the government is able to regulate social media, it can censor any inappropriate content from children so that everyone's child will be able to go onto social media without running into any inappropriate material. In conclusion, governments should regulate social media because it will do more good than harm. I made two arguments for my case, which are social media needs to be more transparent to governments and users, and held accountable for objectionable content that any child can be badly influenced by. Government regulation of social media will be a giant step forward to making social media platforms a more hospitable environment. Thank you.
Excellent work. In light of that, we will move into the cross-examination period for 2 minutes.
When you say that the government would censor objectionable what?
Sorry,
When you
go
say
ahead,
that
do
the
it now.
government would censor objectionable content, how would they censor it? Because they can't just have like 100,000 people just like around the clock watching for posts.
The government could censor social media platforms by having filters placed throughout social media, which will regulate and censor any information like obscenity, fraud, child pornography, and threats to the government.
Would the filters be filtering through posts that are just being posted, or just be filtering through content?
The filters would be filtering through any content posted on social media so that it would ensure that any content that includes obscenity, fraud, or other things is regulated.
Sorry, I kind of misworded that. What I meant was, would the filters filter stuff out as they're getting posted? Like, would they watch for stuff about to get posted and just remove those? Or would they just start browsing through already posted stuff?
They would browse through already posted stuff and censor them.
Okay, in light of that, we will now move into Ryan's con opening on the topic for 2 minutes.
Imagine this, a world where the government regulates social media and where the government is abusing its power to stifle opposing opinions. Government regulation of social media will do more harm than good. In the following speech, I will explain why the government should not regulate social media because companies are already regulating social media and why it would give the government too much power. The first reason that the government should not regulate social media is that several companies such as YouTube and Facebook are already self-regulating posts and videos. A few examples of this is when a BBC News article said that YouTube already took down 8.8 million videos and Facebook took down 3.3 million pieces of content. This means that the government does not have to regulate social media because companies already self-regulate. This is important because it shows that government regulation is not needed. Also, self-regulation by social media companies is better than government regulation because self-regulation is not against the First Amendment, while government regulation is. This is proven when the Supreme Court ruled that private companies aren't bound by the First Amendment. Another reason that the government should not regulate social media is because that would give the government too much power over who says what. We know this because in an article by Abbott Journal, the author states that recently, President Trump censored people's comments from his Twitter account. The comments were not false or the comments just criticized the president and were not really vulgar or rude. This shows that if the government regulates social media, they can abuse their power to suppress political opponents or censor anyone who disagreed with them. Another example of this is when Trump wanted to revoke NBC's media rights because they said something that reflected badly on him. This shows that the government regulating social media could turn bad, like the government censoring someone's post just because they disagreed with the government. This is important because it means that the government regulation of social media would give the government too much power. As you can see, the government shouldn't regulate social media because companies already do it and it would give the government too much power. You must vote against government regulation of social media because it will do more harm than good.
Question period for 1 minute, y'all.
Okay. So when you say in your argument that social media already regulates content, as I said in my argument, backed by a research by the Pew Research Center, it says that social media doesn't self-regulate itself enough to protect objectionable content from children. So I don't really understand why you say social media already regulates content because this is not valid.
I said that because in the BBC News article, it said that YouTube removed 8.8 million videos and 3.3 million channels and 517 million comments only between July and September 2019, which shows that social media companies can clearly manage themselves.
Did you say 8.8 million?
Yeah.
Well, there are over 3 billion people in the world, and 8.8 million is only a small fraction of the billions of people who use social media.
Wait, one sec, Cyrus. Did you just say that there's 3.3 billion people in the world?
No, I said that there are over 3 billion people who use
Okie
social
dokie.
Oh,
You
okay.
all sorted out in your refutation speeches, okay? But this is a really fantastic example when one student will find some evidence and then another student will find some more evidence that directly contradicts it. And now it's up for the refutation speakers to say why their rationale is better. Cyrus, since you were the affirmative, you should be starting us off. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
1.5 minutes. Let's hear it.
All right. In your argument, when you say social media companies don't self-regulate enough, as proven by a study done by the Pew Research Center in 2019, as stated in my argument, social media companies don't self-regulate themselves enough. Also, governments won't abuse their power because in the government regulation process of social media, there will be a select task force to regulate social media with a third unbiased party monitoring the government regulation, which ensures that the government will not at all abuse their power. Also, there's content in social media that has little to no protection from the First Amendment, such as obscenity, fraud, child pornography, and true threats. These are the things that the government is trying to regulate. They're not trying to regulate anything else besides that. but social media isn't doing a good job at self-regulating this content. Also, when you say that the president deleted content that was true, this is why we need a third unbiased party monitoring the government regulation so that it will ensure that the government doesn't abuse their power. So overall, governments won't abuse their power because there will be a third unbiased party, and the social media doesn't do a good job at self-regulating themselves.
Excellent job. Next up is Ryan for a minute and a half for your refutation on the negative. Are you ready? Let's do it.
So when you said that companies couldn't regulate social media enough, this is not true because YouTube took down 8.8 million videos and 3.3 million channels and 517 million comments just between July and September 2019. Also, the government doesn't have to add their own filters because 93% of those were automatically removed by machines. YouTube also employs 10,000 people in monitoring content and looking for like cyberbullying and stuff like that. Facebook also has 35,000 people working on safety and security, which shows that the government does not have to regulate social media. Also, when you said that the government would only censor like bad content, how would we know? So you said that. Wait, no, that's part of my closing speech. How do you know that the government would actually be unbiased? Because, as I said, the president has censored people's comments that disagreed with him. Also, social media companies should not be held accountable for people's posts because if they did, they would go bankrupt very soon. This would be bad because a lot of wait no sorry wait no yeah because a lot of small companies run ads on social media and so do charity companies. So if social media companies went bankrupt, a lot of companies would also go bankrupt, collapsing the economy.
And that's time. Okay. Well, in light of that, we'll now be moving into the closing speeches. Both sides explain why they think they won the debate. Cyrus, you're on the affirmative, so you'll be starting us.
I won this debate because kids are our future. Cyberbullying affects kids in many traumatic ways, such as anxiety and suicide. Over 52% of kids, according to cyberbullying statistics from the iSafe Foundation, have been cyberbullied. This is half of our future generation being cyberbullying, which could lead to traumatic consequences. Furthermore, when Ryan says that social media companies will go bankrupt because they will be held accountable, this encourages social media companies to self-regulate themselves better so they don't fall out of business. This will help protect anyone who uses social media. Also, my argument about cyberbullying is more powerful than his argument about free speech because, as I said before, kids are our future.
Excellent for the children. Okay. Ryan, are you ready for your closing speech? Let's hear it. 1 minute.
I won this debate round because stopping a tyrannical government is more important than stopping cyberbullying. I won this part because he said that the government wouldn't abuse its power because of a third unbiased party. But how do we know that the third unbiased party would actually be unbiased? Because the government is supposed to be unbiased, but it can not be. As I said, when the President Trump, he censored opposing opinions. This shows that the third unbiased party might not actually be unbiased, which could lead to a tyrannical government. The impact of the government abusing its power is bigger than cyberbullying because the government abusing its power can affect everybody, adults and children, while cyberbullying mainly happens to children. As you can see, I won this debate because stopping a tyrannical government is more important than stopping cyberbullying.
Excellent work, you all. Fantastic job. One thing I want to say and notice about the speech is that you'll notice that Ryan and Cyrus they're looking down a lot in their speech. That's because we taught them a way to do note taking and whatnot, but they also managed to maintain a lot of eye contact. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, believe it or not, that influence what makes a successful debater. So fantastic work to both sides. Really great job. Okay, our last round of the day, final round, will be between Maddie and Jay. Okay, y'all, just like everybody else, introductions, name, what city or state you're living in, and your favorite thing about camp. Maddie and Jay. Maddie, since you're on the affirmative, you'll be starting us off.
Great. Hi, I'm Maddie Delbridge. I live in New York City, but I'm currently in Los Angeles, California. And I think my favorite part about debate camp this week was the actual debating, writing the speeches, and doing the speech activities.
Awesome. And Jay?
Hi, my name is G Patel, and I live in Calabasas, California. And my favorite part of debate camp was probably the team building activities, also flowing exercises, and other speech activities.
You liked flowing? Oh,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. You like note taking. Wonderful. Okay. In light of that, on our final round, Maddie, you're the affirmative. Let's hear your arguments in favor of the topic for 2 minutes.
Okay. Over 1 billion people use Instagram, and all of these people might see propaganda on this app and other apps. And today, I'm here to discuss the topic, the benefits of government regulations on social media outweigh the harm. And I stand strongly on the affirmative side of this resolution. So let's go over my arguments. My first argument is that this will help stop the spread of propaganda and fake news. My second argument is that it will help decrease hate speech. Let's move on to my first argument. My first argument is that it'll help stop spread propaganda and fake news. So according to Statista.com, 52% of online news sites contain fake news. This is a really, really large number, and propaganda really must be stopped. Propaganda is dissemination of information, half-truths, lies, and according to Britannica.com. So propaganda must be stopped all over the internet, but I think we can start by enforcing government regulation on social media because I think this will really, really make a drastic change and there'll be less propaganda. So my second reason is that it'll help decrease and suppress hate speech. So hate speech is really, really important in the US. According to USA Today, half of Americans are victims of hate speech. This is a really, really large number, and we really have to decrease hate speech in the US. And according to CBC, in Canada, there are laws in place that help suppress and decrease hate speech. And since then, hate speeches have gone down. So I think we can start by enforcing laws like that. But before that, we can start by enforcing government regulation on social media. So today I walked you through 2 examples to why I believe that the benefits of government regulations do outweigh the harm. So my first reason was that it'll help stop the spread of propaganda. My second reason was that it'll help decrease hate speech. And for these 2 reasons, I strongly stand on the affirmative side of this resolution, and I urge you all to stand with the I urge you all to stand with the affirmative side, and I agree that the benefits of government regulations do outweigh the harm. Thank you.
Excellent work there. Okay, Jay, your turn to question Maddie for 1 minute.
Okay. How do you know that when the government is unbiased when they are going to regulate social media platforms?
Really important because the regulations is not the government. I think regulations, the social platforms are also managing themselves. So it's both the government and the social media platforms. So it's not going to be biased because the social media platforms don't really have a certain opinion. They're not going against the government. They're not going for the government. So I think it'll actually not be biased because they'll be working together. And by working together, I think social media companies are busy already. So that's why we have to also enforce government regulation. But with both of them together, I think the spread of propaganda and hate speech will decrease.
So most of these are algorithms. So how if something is encrypted, since posts can be encrypted, or they might not fit the algorithm, like Basically, this algorithms might not ban some things because they're encrypted or they just don't see like they don't fit the part of banning. They don't fit the sketch basically. So if algorithms don't ban some things because they're encrypted again, as I said, or they just
Okay,
don't,
that's time. We're gonna have to move on.
how it is to
Nice
get.
try though. You can do in the reputations what I will say, Jay.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay. Time for your opening.
Often I see people speak out for what they believe in, but with government regulation on social media, we will lose our freedom of speech. Hi, my name is Jay Patel, and today I'm going to be talking about the problem: do benefits of government regulation on social media outweigh the harms? I'm going to be supporting the con side of this argument. The two reasons why government regulation are bad are the free right of speech is violated, and posts that objectify women and hate speech were spread to more people on lesser known websites the government will not regulate. The first reason is the free right of speech is taken away. It's such a shame we can't speak out because the free right of speech was given to us by our founding fathers and it is in the First Amendment. According to Index on Censorship, everyone should have the free right of speech and it shouldn't be taken away. It's like being restrained in a cage because we can't speak out like MLK and Rosa Parks and other civil rights speakers. Everyone should be able to speak out. The second reason is hate speech and posts objectifying people will spread more. For example, a post on Twitter got banned, but then moves to smaller platforms like Reddit and 4chan. According to CNN, in 2016 to 2017, there was a fake news conspiracy story called the Pizzagate operation with Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. It got banned on Twitter, but then moved to Reddit and 4chan. More people got traumatized and harmed by this. It even got so serious that death threats and guns were involved in this. In conclusion, the two reasons why government regulation are bad are bad speech can spread and post objectifying women can spread, and the free right of speech is violated. So please, join me in the billions of people who want to express ourselves on social media platforms worldwide.
Excellent work there. So in light of that, we'll move into the last questioning period for 1 minute.
Okay, perfect. So you are arguing that we should not have government regulations, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and your second point was that it'll the propaganda and fake news and hate speeches can spread to lesser known websites.
Yeah, with that, so basically it's basically there's two harms basically. Hate speech will still spread, but the free right of speech is also taken away, and more
Okay,
people.
well, on your second argument, so lesser known websites. So because they're spreading to lesser known websites with less people, it's a lot. You're saying it's a lost cause. We should not put any laws against it. Just like murder, if we put no laws against murder, we can say, oh, it's a lost cause. It'll just happen anyway. Let's put no laws and let it just see where it
Well,
goes.
no,
These are people's
no.
lives. We have a lot at stake here, and I think that even though it might spread to lesser known websites, I think we really should increase government regulation because it'll at least help the cause.
Well, with government, if there's no government regulation, there's no people will say there's no point of spreading it to other websites if there's no government regulation, so it wouldn't be banned on one website.
Excellent, excellent questioning period again. We'll be moving in now to the refutation speeches. Maddie, since you're on the affirmative, you'll be starting us off. Are you ready to begin?
May I have 1 minute of prep time, please?
Yeah, sure. Starting now. So Maddie is the first person out of the five debate rounds to use prep, which is totally fine. In each debate round, every side gets a limited amount of prep that they can use to prepare their speeches. Maddie is using her minute now to prepare.
I'm ready, thank you.
Excellent. Minute and a half for your speech.
My opponent's arguments no longer stand. Let's jump in and move right on to his first argument. His first argument is that it'll decrease freedom of speech and we won't be able to speak our minds anymore. But actually, if he stated that the government regulations would take away freedom of speech, but if they take away freedom of speech, hate speech will continue and increase, which means that actually lesser known minorities will actually not be able to speak up. This will actually make freedom of speech worse. So actually that point does not stand. His second point was that it'll spread to lesser known websites. So he's basically saying that since it might spread to lesser known websites, that literally say lesser known, so people don't really know that much about it. It's a lost cause, and we should just let propaganda do its thing, and we should misinform everybody, which is completely irrational. And actually, if we increase government regulations, this will actually help propaganda and fake news. So he's basically saying that we should just give up and let propaganda take over the internet. But I know that today the topic is about social media, but I think social media is a really, really great place to start because the government is not able to tackle all of the internet, all of these lesser known websites in one try. So we have to start somewhere. And I think a great place to start is social media. And I think this can help this a lot. So let's go over my two arguments one more time. So my first argument was that it'll help decrease propaganda and hates, and it'll help decrease propaganda and fake news. And my second argument is that it'll help suppress hate speech. So since my opponent's arguments no longer stand, I believe I've won this debate. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent work. Jay, it is your turn for your refutation. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Awesome. Minute and a half for the con refutation of the affirmative opening.
My opponent's first argument is incorrect because there are many other ways to spread propaganda. It's inevitable. Propaganda is going to spread. And propaganda is misinformation the public might be harmed by. First of all, propaganda can be banned on one site but moves to other sites that are not regulated. So the future teens and kids of our future will be harmed. According to Damian Collins, a writer at Wired, says that misinformation about COVID-19 and other things is so common that even the government has lied about this before. So how do you know that the government is credible and they won't be biased in their regulations? In addition, propaganda can spread through other websites and platforms as well. With the government actually lying and the government doing questionable things, how do we know that the billions of social media users are actually safe? For example, President Trump didn't want to send more tests out to hospitals, COVID-19 tests out to hospitals throughout the US, because if he said that if more people get tested, they would test positive. And the more cases in the US would make our country look bad to other countries. But this is just to make the government look good. But they don't even want to help the people. They're just greedy and selfish. They just want to look good. They don't care about helping the people. They just want to look good. So the regulations would be horrible for this country because they're not credible and the regulations wouldn't be correct. And they're not knowledgeable. My opponent's second argument is also false because fake news posts and hate news posts are not filtered until they are posted because of algorithms and people monitoring it. So
Did you finish your sentence?
so people can still know about it and then post it, and it can spread, and it can go to smaller networks that are secret, that are less known to common people, but there's still hundreds of thousands of people on those websites.
Excellent, excellent work. In light of that, we're going to be moving to the closing speech where both sides will be explaining how they feel like they won the debate round. Maddie, you have a 1 minute closing. Are you ready, or would you like to use the remainder of your prep?
I'm ready.
Awesome. 1 minute.
1 minute closing. Okay. I strongly believe today that I have won this debate, and this is because my opponents and his refutations to my points no longer stand. Let's move into his points and how I refuted them. His first point was that freedom of speech we won't have freedom of speech anymore. Well, actually, this isn't true because hate speech will continue, and this will shut down lesser known minorities. His second point was that fake news and propaganda can spread to lesser known websites. Actually, if they spread to lesser known websites, and they're lesser known, less people will know about it, and he's basically just giving up and saying it's a lost cause. And he also said that propaganda can spread in other ways. Again, this is not relevant to our topic. Our topic is about social media today and not about how propaganda spreads. And he also said that posts are not filtered. They're not filtered until they're posted. And he's basically saying that we should just let them out, and we should not try to stop them even after they go out. So for these reasons and my refutations to his refutations to my points and my refutations to his points, I strongly believe that I have won this debate. Thank you.
Excellent work. The last speech of the last debate. Jay, your negative closing. Are you ready, or do you want to use some prep?
I'm good.
1 minute. Let's do it.
I believe I won this speech because the free right of speech is more important than propaganda spreading. So what my opponent said is propaganda spreading is basically irrelevant to this topic. Well, it actually is. As in my opponent's argument, she talked about propaganda and propaganda spreading, and I responded with propaganda can spread to different websites, also social media platforms, and the topic is about social media platforms. Also, minorities, if minorities cannot, no, unfortunately, minorities cannot speak out because the government, as you can see, the government will be biased and will regulate on social media platforms, but they can't talk about and spread in real life. They can't speak their beliefs because, according to CNN, and also I saw this on live TV, President Trump threw tear gas at peaceful protesters protesting outside the White House. Is that it?
You can finish your sentence.
And also, it's the public versus the government. The public has more power than the government. The public have 300 million people. It'll lead to unrest and even tyranny if the government puts regulations on social media. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent job, y'all. Congratulations. Wow. I'm so happy I was able to see all 5 debates happen and see all you all grow so much. As far as it goes, that is really all we have for you all today. I want to emphasize that for all my students, if y'all ever wondering about debate or college applications or how to work through that and debate scholarships and whatnot, you all have an ability to contact me through your Capital Debate email. I want to encourage you all to keep up with debate. It's just like any other skill. You need to keep working at it in order to keep your skills up and stay good at it, much like a muscle. It's for that reason I just want to say thanks. And beyond though, we're all done. If you have any questions, you always contact us at team@capitaldebate.com. Otherwise, have an excellent summer, you all. I'll see you all later. Bye.
Thank you for instructing us.
Yes, Cyrus, you're welcome. Bye, everyone. Bye, Shauna. Bye,
Thank you.
Iris. You're welcome, Maddie and Annie. Good luck with everything. Bye, Shauna.
Bye.
Bye, Joe. Bye, Lucas. Bye, Iris. See you all. Keep playing Scribble. And if you have any questions about anything, I'm also here to answer some of those if people have any. Otherwise, though, I was see. Oh, was there a question this entire time? Let me see. But yeah, otherwise, I just want to say very, very happy to work with your students. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. We'll be sending you a recording of the webinar as well as your certificates in the future. Beyond though, have an excellent day. I hope to see you all soon. Bye.